elementary school student draws a picture to provide moral support for staff at Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital. Tzu Chi's charitable work in Mozambique is due to a solid core of local volunteers and one woman from Taiwan. I'm Sean Scanlon. This is Dia Headlines. Let's get started. As the pandemic rages in Taiwan, hospitals and medical staff are working overtime. An elementary student, Yu Haocheng, feels for medical workers and personally drew a picture and sent it to Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital. Here's more.
On the drawing paper, the little boy has written, "Thank you. I really appreciate it and bless you." Then he put it in the envelope and sent it to Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital.
于耀成，你画的是什么呢？
一个医生。
为什么要画医生呢？
因为他很努力在工作。
This 10-year-old little boy wanted to cheer up the healthcare workers with his artwork.
台湾加油，一起加油。
The childish voice has shot out a positive energy, hoping to warm the tired hearts of the healthcare workers.
The medical team, uncles, aunties, brothers, and sisters are fighting bravely against the pandemic. Let's make it together.
The heartwarming stories also include this article posted on Facebook, with a picture of a nurse feeding a bottle to a 1-year-old girl in a baby carriage.
I stayed with her for a while, then she said she wanted to drink milk, so I asked my colleague to prepare a bottle of formula milk for her. After that, I fed her at the nursing station and waited for her mother to pick her up.
Under the raging pandemic, the story has got nearly 2,000 Facebook likes. It turned out that this baby and her grandmother have contracted COVID together, and she was released from quarantine earlier than her grandmother.
I don't want her to see her grandma being intubated. My heart went out to her, so I don't want her to see such a scene. The 1-year-old kid doesn't really understand. She only missed her grandma.
Hundreds of messages have left on the Facebook to thank the nurse for her hard work and also bless the grandma to recover soon.
Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital helped a pregnant woman with COVID-19 deliver a baby. Although she required intubation, the medical team decided to perform a C-section to reduce stress on the mother. After the delivery, the mother continues to battle the virus, while the baby is in ICU due to being underweight.
The baby came to the world while everyone watches. This moment is especially meaningful yet fearful to surrounding medical staff. Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital has taken in a 32-year-old COVID-19 affected patient. The patient is also pregnant at the time, with a pregnancy period of 32 weeks. She's moved to a dedicated ward and received a C-section from the medical team, since it will secure both the mother and daughter.
The
mother's lung is affected by pneumonia, and her breathing problems are so serious that we considered using intubation. But due to the medicine that will be used, and how it would affect the baby, we decided to let the child out in order to reduce stress on the mother. So at this moment, we will deliver the child, then treat the mother.
In order to ensure safety, the surgery is arranged in a positive and negative pressure ward, as many medical staff wore 3 layers of protection. This also increased the difficulty of surgery.
Our goggles will add fog, and it would affect our sight lines. Our body heat will also be trapped in our protective gear, so it's very stamina draining, because during surgery, we cannot go to the restroom or drink water.
Since the baby was delivered early, she weighed only 1,500 grams and was suffering from breathing issues. She was immediately placed into an ICU and into an incubator, and in order to prevent direct contact with the virus, the baby received 2 rapid screening and PCR within 48 hours.
After we return to the isolation ward, we wash the baby. We have to clean out the amniotic fluid and blood in order to reduce the chance of infection. The baby currently relies on a respirator to breathe.
The doctor says that the virus can still be passed on to the baby, which is possible if the pregnant woman contracted COVID-19 14 days prior to delivery. This increases the rate of infection up to 4%. As of now, the medical team waits for results as they're pouring out the effort to help the mother and daughter.
The outbreak of COVID-19 began at the end of 2019, has now infected more than 160 million people so far. The number is still increasing every day, as the disease has killed more than 3 million people around the world. Follow our report as we learn more about this deadly coronavirus. Take a look.
The novel coronavirus appears under the microscope. There are spikes projecting from its spherical surface.
冠状病毒的英文是 Chronovirus。那这个
The name coronavirus is originated from Latin corona, meaning crown or wreath. There are pearl-like protein structure around it, making it look like jewels around the crown.
珠状的那个蛋白结构，然后看起来很像皇冠周围的珠宝。
The crown-wearing virus is extremely infectious, sweeping over the world in a short period of time.
冠状病毒已知有7种。
Coronavirus is known to have 7 types, and 4 are very common, such as the cold and gastrointestinal infections, which are similar to flu, with the symptoms of upper respiratory tract infections. The other 2 types, such as SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV, are uncommon and usually have severe pneumonia symptoms. The last one is SARS-CoV-2, which is now widespread.
最后一种就是我们现在在流行的 SARS-CoV-2。
Viruses with cronized spike proteins are commonly known as coronavirus. The spike proteins recognize specific ACE2 receptor, that is, it recognizes its host only. The virus only binds to the host it recognizes, otherwise it won't infect if it does not recognize.
我们发现这个棘蛋白呢，只跟绿色的 ACE2 受体结合，并不会跑到其他不表达 ACE2 的细胞上面。也就是说，棘蛋白跟 ACE2 受体是有很强的专一性。
On the screen, the ones with different color are the cells with receptors recognized by the virus, and they have already been infected.
When the virus infects a cell, it must first bind to specific receptors on the cell surface. It can only enter the cell through the binding with the receptor. For the coronavirus infecting pigs, its spike protein can only recognize pig receptor protein, so only pigs can be infected with swine coronavirus.
Viruses can be divided into DNA viruses and RNA viruses. DNA viruses require double-strand DNA during replication, and the replication speed is slow and stable, whereas RNA viruses have only single-strand DNA, which are fast to replicate but are prone to errors and mutations during replication. Coronaviruses are RNA viruses.
细菌以分裂生殖，所以它是一分为2，很少产生。
Bacteria is divided into 2 and rarely have mutations, whereas viruses will initiate a process of replication. When the virus enters the cell, it will make the cell synthesize its element pieces, which are then put together to form the virus. Once the virus can produce thousands of viruses in an hour.
1个钟头可以变出1000只到100只的一个病毒。
This replication method is prone to errors, producing new mutations. The coronavirus that caused heavy human casualties in history are SARS and MERS.
2003年的 SARS，
Take the SARS in 2003 as an example. This coronavirus originally only infects bats, but it mutated to recognize the ACE2 receptors of both bats and human. In 2012, a virus that originally infects camels only caused Middle East respiratory syndrome, which was later found to be classified as a coronavirus.
这个病毒后来也被发现是冠状病毒。
The novel coronavirus this time has the ability to recognize specific receptors to the extreme.
一般冠状病
The ordinary coronavirus is highly specific to its host. Theoretically, the chicken coronavirus will only infect chickens. Scientists have discovered that the novel coronavirus not only can infect humans, but also bats, pigs, and cats. But it can't infect mice. However, it can infect hamsters and ferrets. It is not specific to one host.
是比较差的。
Researchers at the University of Texas at Austin found that this way of novel coronavirus is similar to SARS, but the adhesion to its receptor is nearly 20 times higher. Repeated replication has produced more mutants. A new mutant strain, which has higher transmission, also appeared in India.
病毒要产生
The virus mutates when it encounters pressure on immunity. When the virus infects for a certain period of time, it will mutate.
病毒就会产生变异。
The more people infected by the mutant virus, the more it is likely to have newer and more lethal mutants, making the pandemic seemingly endless.
Tzu Chi's work in Africa began 20 years ago. Cyclone Idai hit Mozambique in 2019. with Tzu Chi offering disaster assistance. These actions inspired many locals, along with a Taiwanese woman whose marriage brought her to Mozambique. Here's more.
For me, the definition of home is from my maternal family and then my decision to marry someone from Mozambique. So Mozambique is also my home.
我嫁给了慈济。
Eu casei a Tzu Chi.
Denise Tai is an ordinary girl from southern Taiwan who just happened to marry a man from Mozambique. Dino Foy, who is the youngest PhD in Mozambique, is the president's personal advisor in charge of Asian affairs. Love brought them together, allowing Tai to drift far away from home.
坐着这个私人的专机
Sitting on a private plane following these high-ranking officials or sometimes just our family on a special inspection trip, we would stay in the presidential suite and open bottles of red wine. All these expenses may be our salary for several months at work. We would spend $30,000 or $40,000 a night. But then we thought, what were we really doing?
我们在做什么呢？
Unlimited privilege was not what this couple wanted, as other ambitions inspired them. Tai had an idea to return Taiwan, which caused problems in their marriage. It was until 2012 when she met the master that their marriage took on a new direction.
上人看到就是
When the master saw me, she asked, why did I marry so far away? Suddenly, I felt like someone knocked me on my head and I woke up with my original intention. Why did I marry so far away? Because I love my husband and also because I love that country.
先生，但是也爱那个国家。
Remembering her original intention that had been disregarded for a long time, Tai was eager to change and contribute. Love is ever-changing, and she thought how to win over the hearts of people in this foreign country, as many people would simply see her as an alien.
我常常安慰自己的话就是没有关系。
In those first few years, I used to comfort myself by saying it didn't matter. We have watches and Africans don't, but what they have is time. It's like I was really an alien and everyone just looked at me. It's like they were puzzled how I could communicate with them as I didn't understand their life at all.
你怎么跟我们？你要跟我们讲什么呢？
Later, they sat on the muddy ground together, eating a big pot of rice, crying for the sufferings, and singing for the happiness together.
我就开始称呼每一个。
I started to call everyone sister-in-law and elder brother. Everyone was my family member. My Mozambique family includes everyone. I really treat them as sincerely as family members.
真的真心把他们当家人。
I often say that my wife is my foundation stone. She is the reason why I'm willing to get up every day, so that I can see the world from different perspectives. She gives love a more noble meaning than small family, small love. My wife is the kind of person who sees the whole world as her close relative.
Mozambique is a country 22 times larger than Taiwan with 18 dialects. "18 volunteers volunteered to travel 1,200 kilometers launched from Maputo to do a long stay in central Sofafa province. This is equivalent to traveling across the country, breaking the tradition of staying near one's ancestral's grave.
Eu vou ensinar aforismo. Mina nzafamba nziyasofala nziyadonsisa liranzo la master shengen. Mina nafamba niyasofala niyarima. Kana.
I moved from Maputo to central Sofala out of my free will because I wanted to help local folks who were affected by the cyclone.
No matter how hard the life is, we have to live on. Because of Tzu Chi, we have already walked a brave path and can say goodbye to the old days, help others and help ourselves, that our lives go as far as possible.
I used to believe in witchcraft. My life has become more and more unfortunate, but now my way of looking at life is different. On the contrary, good things happen every day, so as long as I am willing to change, these things are only superficial.
Sheila Tremble is indispensable to any disaster relief project. She was originally engaged in other NGO work, but since 2018, Tremble was involved in Tzu Chi's rescue relief after the collapse of the garbage mountain and also a frontline volunteer after Cyclone Idai.
Sunshine will not vary from person to person. It will not make you darker, but give others brighter, pure light. Let me be faithful. Give me more strength to help others. Not only material items, but also spiritual love.
Master Zheng Yan urged us to reverse the destiny of Africa, including myself. All are given the mission to lead Africa in a different way. Fortunately, Mozambique is a very young country. The whole society is learning to gradually open up and progress. Mozambique will have hope for the future. In such a poor place, how do we turn their lives around and continue to fulfill this mission? We must rely on local people to draw materials. So 31 or 32 years ago, Master Zheng Yan said developing self-reliance and using local resources. This is actually our religious thought. If you want local development, you need to rely on local people. So localization is very important to us as we must localize. In Zhanghua, a Tzu Chi scholarship recipient, Xiao He, grew up lonely and neglected. He was injured at work and in a car accident. His aunt, a Tzu Chi volunteer, gave him hope. Now he is about to graduate from university. I don't go to school till about noon. Otherwise, I won't go. I don't like studying. My mother sometimes didn't pay tuition and didn't do anything. In fact, I didn't pay a lot of tuition. Later, I didn't even want to go to school, because when I went to school, the teacher would ask, "Your tuition has not yet been paid." So I didn't go to school at all. After my tuition fee was not paid, I not asked my mother, because after asking me once, she said that your dad didn't transfer the money. Then I stopped asking.
When he was in junior high school, we were helping the students. His mother was very strange. We were going to talk to her about students' assistance, but we couldn't find her. She didn't care, and she didn't want to make an appointment with us.
The next day I woke up, my body was no longer able to move. I couldn't do anything. I could only lie there and couldn't even eat a meal, so it took half a year to learn to hold chopsticks and learn to write. They all used the left hand to complete the work.
Hello, 电灯打开一下好吗？很久没有这种家的感觉。
朋友那边也有。
朋友那边啊，我说家，无遮久，无遮热闹啊。有，你好。大家来吃，来用餐。爸爸来了，那个吃。生煎呐。
厝会尴尬吧？无啊，咱厝会尴尬。
It feels like home. It's home now. It's been a long time since I ate like this. When I went to Taipei, this house was left to my wife to take care of. My wife is only addicted to the computer world. She doesn't care about anything. Because I felt that I had to take care of it at the time, I came back. As a result, it was too late after returning home and the family had already collapsed. About half a year after I was in a car accident, my aunt came to me and I went for rehabilitation. After the accident, I didn't want to live anymore.
He really stood up one day after rehabilitation. I told him, you got to finish your unfinished studies. And he said he didn't study well. He has a bad memory after a car accident. I said, it's okay. As long as you want to learn, you will have a successful day.
Tzu Chi asked me to study because I thought I would be well, just like before. I can do work with my physical strength, so I don't need to study. But I found that my health would not be better, so Tzu Chi asked me to go to school, so I went. He uses AutoCAD to draw some pictures. Like we use two hands together, so the speed is faster. He has no choice if he needs to press some shortcut keys. He can only work with one hand. Because when I first went to work, he said he didn't treat me as a disabled student. If you are treated as a disabled student, you will never make progress. If you treat me as a disabled student, I will not make progress either. When doing measurement work, he basically has to take a tape measure. From his point of view, it is obvious that he may be inconvenient, but when he actually goes to the scene, he also works very hard, just relying on his own methods to do some measurements. Although it will be a bit slower, but I feel that being willing to work hard is much better than not being serious. In fact, no one taught him how to be a father, and no one taught me how to be a child, so everyone is learning. Of course, I have learned. Then I will make a little progress. When my dad learns, he will improve a little. I told him in the car that he should prepare well for graduation in another year. I asked him what he plans to do after graduation. He told me that after he graduated, he wanted me to retire. He wants to make money to support me. Very happy is definitely happy, and I feel very pleasantly surprised. The pandemic has meant more people are at home. A fitness instructor tells us how to stay in shape indoors. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.